this time, I'd like to recall to order the Suffern Central School District Board of Education meeting of May 21st, 2019. Let the record reflect all board members are present. We're also accompanied by Mr. Harvey Schnall, Interim Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Ms. Heather Campbell, District Clerk, Dr. Castaldo, Acting Superintendent of Schools, and Ms. Lee Weber, Assistant Superintendent for Instruction. If you could please stand for the pledge. Thank you. Okay, our apology for running a few minutes behind schedule upstairs, and we will start with our student report. Maddie Nickbon is here.
I'm sorry. On May 22nd, it's the spring concert #1 in the SHS auditorium. May 23rd is Suffern High School's extended lunch, which is part of Spirit Week this past week, where tomorrow is Whiteout, and then Thursday is Mountie Madness, where we have extended lunch. There's no school Friday and Monday, and school is in session on Tuesday, which is an SHS 8-day. Senior portraits for juniors, incoming seniors, will be the 28th to the 30th. On May 29th is Mu Alpha Theta induction at 6:30 in the library at Suffern High School. And May 30th is the Evening of Excellence at 7 o'clock in the auditorium. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie.
Good job, Maddie. Thank you.
Next, we will be approving minutes of the executive session of April 29th, 2019. Motion? Mr. McKenzie, second. Mr. Cairns, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against? Any abstains? Just please remember, if you were out for any meeting, to abstain. Minutes of the special meeting of April 29th, 2019. Motion? Mr. McKenzie, second.
Second.
Mr. Curran, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstains? Thank you. Minutes of the regular meeting of May 7th. Motion?
Second.
Mr. McKenzie is first, Mr. Cairns is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against? Any abstains? So May 7th has been passed. And finally, our May 16th special meeting minutes. Motion? Mr. McKenzie, second. Mr. Curran. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstains?
Yes.
Mr. Shapiro, any nays? None. Minutes have been passed with one abstain. All minutes have been adopted. Acting Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Castaldo.
Good evening, can you hear me? We've had a lot going on in the last couple of weeks, so I just wanted to report out on that. We had 2 fabulous field trips. There was the 9/11 senior trip to the 9/11 memorial, which I hear was really fabulous, and everyone received a red bandana for Wells Crowther. Also, the early foundations class went to the Camp Venture Equestrian Complex and had a really good time, so that was good as well. Last night I went to the Civics Fair, put on by the National History Honor Society. Advisor Kim Cleary did a great job leading the teams of students. It was a fabulous time, and Kim explained it to me. She described it as STEM for history, so it was a really great time. And I think the big question afterwards is whether M&Ms or Skittles won, and I still don't know that answer, so if anyone knows, feel free to raise your hand and tell me. No? No one here knows, but I will try to find out. Someone in the back looks like they know. No? Is it M&Ms or Skittles? We could take an informal poll right now. I voted for Skittles. Who else voted for Skittles in this room? No one? Anyone vote for M&Ms? Okay. No one else voted, but I did, so I will find out and I'll report back next meeting. The girls lacrosse team made sectionals, and you can get tickets on the Go, I want to say it's GoFan website, so please try to do that if you can. JV baseball are the county champs, which is great, the boys JV baseball. Good shout outs. Principal Bonatti, if anybody saw, was in the Read to Them spring newsletter, and they were focusing her work on one school, one book, and the events that she held all year for that. Most of our elementary schools did participate in that, so it was a really great initiative that started this year that we're hoping to do again next year. Finally, and something that's near and dear to my heart, the Tallman Fire Department, Suffern Fire Department, and Ramapo Police Department did extrication demonstration at the high school. Not many people know I'm a 20-year volunteer firefighter and have done extrications in actual accidents. It really matters a lot to me that we're working collaboratively with our first responder agencies. I'm hoping some of the students that saw the demonstrations are thinking about joining, because most agencies do take students at the age of 16. It's a really great way to give back to your community, so that was a good time as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Castaldo. Public comments on agenda items only. Public comments need to be addressed to the board president. Please don't address any specific matter that involves a specific student or staff member. We are limited to 3 minutes. We're going to need a timekeeper until our board clerk arrives back. We forgot the team.
Right.
Okay. We're going back to under superintendent comments. Acting Superintendent Dr. Castaldo has a team to introduce, so we apologize. Digressing.
So the high school environmental team is here, the club, to give a sustainability presentation, so if you ladies would like to come.
We want to make sure you have a microphone so you can borrow any of ours.
I can now do it on both screens, but without a clicker, or you can do it off my iPad.
Do you want more than one?
For yourself.
And thank
Would you guys like the
for
clip?
pointing that out. The printed agendas that we have don't have that on there. It is above our head, so Lee, thank you for telling us.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's easier. So that way they can see.
All right, good evening. Thank you so much for inviting us today. I know we've had a lot going on, and we just want to say thank you to the community members, to some of our other team members of the Environmental Club who are here in the audience. A lot of staff, community members have been supporting us in this. They visited our booth at the STEAM Expo. My name is Natasha Boda-Saxton. I have been teaching science at the high school for some time now, 15 years. And it's been a wonderful 15 years, and I've been so privileged to work with students who are willing to give their weekends after school. I checked in on some of our presentations, and I can see them working away even on a weekend night and weeknight. So it is my privilege to introduce our Environmental Activism Club. We have done different things in the community, and our sustainability mission is something that is very important to us. And we also have not been alone or worked alone. So the green team is also here today. So they are here, Mr. Picarella, Ms. Mina, Ms. Karen Ritter. They have all been helping us, and they introduced us to Ms. Carrie Scales, who is part of the Rockland Management Group. She is not here today, but you will hear some of the things that we learned from her as well. So this is really a big initiative. We've also met with principals from Solsburg Elementary. We've spoken with Mr. Green and Dr. Douglas and Dr. Trust at the high school. So we really have a lot of pieces to add to our presentation here. So we hope you'll give our kids your attention and go look at it. Thank you.
Hi, just a little bit of an introduction. My name is Vicky.
I'm Katrina.
I'm Belu.
I'm Arpita.
And my name is Anara. So this is our Suffern Sustainability Mission, and the reason why we think this is so important is because environmentalism is a major issue in the 21st century, and it's extremely important. And along with that, Suffern is an outstanding school, and we consider it a pioneer school who gives a lot to its community and also to communities surrounding it. And we believe that if Suffern makes an initiative to be more sustainable, that it will lead to other districts also becoming more environmentally conscious. So, the mission we're presenting to you today is to reduce our ecological footprint, is to implement reusable trays in lunchrooms.
So you may be thinking, we actually recently started to switch from styrofoam to paper trays in our Suffern Central School District. However, whilst paper trays are more sustainable, they aren't necessarily the option, the best option. There are downsides of using paper trays. According to Carrie Scales from the Rockland Solid Waste Authority, paper trays still contain toxins such as PFASs. They continually require the use of natural resources and manufacturing. They also incur purchasing and disposal costs. And performance of the product is not always reliable, considering they could leak and etc. Also, lastly, they still require landfilling because they do not biodegrade. So we really want to reiterate that disposables are very detrimental to our environment. As many of you may know, New York State is actually running out of landfill space, and therefore, because of this, we have to send all of our trash and waste to other countries or other states. And Connecticut and other countries don't always accept our trash anymore. Suffern School District ourselves, we actually send all of our trash to the Canadian border, which is over 300 miles away, which incurs a cost for both fuel and resources. Alongside this, trash commonly gets mixed into our ecosystems and food chain, which means it will be detrimental to our health and environments.
By having reusable trays, we'll have less energy consumption. Reusable trays use the least amount of energy because there's no need to keep producing the product, having to ship it to our schools, and then using it and shipping it towards landfills and other places. Honestly, reusables are a lot more viable option than compared to disposables. We live in this single-use culture, and while using an item once and just throwing away is convenient, especially if you're on the go, having a school and knowing that students will buy lunch is predictable and can easily be changed to more sustainable. Therefore, reusable trays are our best option. As you can see by this chart over here, the circled bars show that the energy that is being used is far less with reusable trays in compared to those of disposables.
Now, recycling is not the answer. They say reduce, reuse, recycle, and recycle is the last R for a reason. Recycling uses up a tremendous amount of energy in all all stages of the process. First of all, for transporting the recycled materials, uses up a lot of fuel because you have to drive it a long distance to take it to the recycling facility. And you also have to hire people to drive the vehicles, which is costly, and it also costs a lot of money to buy the fuel. You also have to sort the recyclable from the non-recyclable materials, which also requires hiring employees to do that, and that takes a lot of time and energy and money. Last but not least, the recycling facility itself uses up a tremendous amount of energy and money. That being said, not all paper is even recyclable in the first place, or it can be composted. According to Rockland Solid Waste Authority, the paper trays cannot be recycled or composted. Paper pulp from the trays slow down the processing machines, and composting tests have shown that the paper cannot be composted effectively. There's also an extra cost to have the paper repurposed, such as shipping and removal fees. So all in all, disposables are not an option, recyclables are not the solution, and therefore reusables are the only way to go.
Now we understand that there are also concerns that come with reusable trays, such as higher electricity and water bills, costs for the tray itself and the dishwashers, and construction and adaptations of the kitchens. However, in reality, reusables are actually more affordable. Although there is a larger upfront cost, it is actually cheaper for the school in the long term, considering we wouldn't have to keep buying the trays every year, and we wouldn't have to worry about price fluctuation, and we wouldn't have to pay the extra money to cart the paper trays to the proper facilities to be disposed of. And as you can see in the chart, the circled bars show when the school used reusable trays, and the price is significantly lower than when they used disposable trays. This takes into account the school labor, the dishwasher, and other costs, including electricity and water. And according to the School Nutrition Foundation, reusable compartment trays had a lower environmental impact and were less expensive when compared to disposable servingware options. One of these examples is in Sioux County, Indiana. They bought the reusable trays, which costed about $66,833, as opposed to the styrofoam trays for 1 year, which was $82,000. At the end of this, they ended up saving about $350 per day. Another example is in Newburgh, New York, where they actually said that they had to replace about 20 to 30 trays per year, but even with this, the price turned out to be significantly lower than when they used disposables. So if Suffern Central paid the same prices as Newburgh does for their trays, in accordance to our school population, after 5 years we would have saved about $53,000. This is the breakpoint even calculator. Using this, you can see how long it would take for us to break even and eventually save money. So with the prices from Newburgh, the reusable trays cost about $6 each, and the styrofoam trays cost about 2 cents. So after about 300 uses, you would start to save money, and the styrofoams would end up being more expensive. Along with this, finding the right dishwasher is key. So there are many cost and energy efficient dishwashers we can buy, such as the Hobart PW Prep washer, which actually is said to pay for itself within 18 to 24 months.
Now we understand there are more concerns than just financial. For example, the misuse of the trays, or also perhaps more cleanup work for students and staff. But don't worry, we have a plan. When discussing with the green team from the middle school, as well as Dr. Lloyd, the principal of Sloatsburg Elementary School, we believe that if we start at a young age, for example, kindergarten and elementary schools, kids will be able to adapt to the reusable trays so that by the time they reach middle school and high school age, they'll already understand how to handle them, and it will be a part of their everyday life, and it won't be much different to them, like something they interact with on a daily basis, like pens and paper and pencils. And also another benefit of that is they'll understand the cleanup process that comes along with it. When speaking with Dr. Lloyd from Sloatsburg Elementary, he did mention that he does have the cafeteria space to put a dishwasher in. So we already know that there are some elementary schools in our district that are willing to get started on this movement. When looking at some other studies, we also found that there are some techniques that schools have used to make implementing reusables more effective in their schools. For example, when placing trash bins in the center of the returning trays, it avoided students, due to laziness or indifference, just throwing out their trays, which is beneficial because then we didn't lose trays that way, because the first thing they saw and went to was the returning station. And the good thing is that it's been done and it already has worked. For example, like we mentioned, right here locally in Newburgh, New York, many of their schools do use reusable in the schools that they do have the dishwasher space for, which is great. In Loudon County Public Schools, DC Public Schools, Sioux City, Los Angeles, several schools in Missouri, Alabama, and now even New York City is, after banning styrofoam trays, they're now working towards reusable trays. So we can see that public schools have adapted it and it has worked well.
As suffering students, we've always been taught to never settle and to always strive for better. So rather than settling for paper trays, we are now striving for a more sustainable future for our district. Thank you, and now we will take questions.
So I think I'm speaking for all of us to say you just wowed us, and we're very impressed. The amount of research you did and how you're passionate about the topic, and you did a tremendous amount of work to prepare for tonight. We truly appreciate this. You came very well prepared and definitely making your point, I would say. I think everybody agrees on that.
And we should definitely look into the project. The only problem with the plastic trays, Mr. Shapiro and I, when we were in school in the 1800s, we had plastic trays, the large ones. Remember, they were like a brownish type of color, and they really worked well. And you know what they really worked well on? When it snowed, they were excellent sleds down the back hill. But it's an investment, and really the school, should thank you for bringing it forward. And we really, my concern in terms of environment with the plastic bottles and so forth. So we will definitely look into this for you. And thank you for bringing it up. Great job.
Thank you to Ms. Paula Paxton for your leadership on this, and I would love to actually get that PowerPoint from you. If you could send it to all board members, if you can email it to us, we might have questions to follow up.
Okay, we can definitely do
And
that.
we would really appreciate that, because that's definitely a conversation to continue.
If you send it to me, I can send it out. That might be the best way to do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well done. And now, we truly are starting public participation. So, Ms. Soma, you can remember to adjust the camera back.
I did it
Oh, you did. Thank you very much, ma'am. Public participation on action items. Seeing there are none, we will close this segment and move on to our action items. Our action items this evening are 2.01 to 2.15. And I believe some items need to be pulled.
All point 7.
2.07,
Mr. Curran?
2.10, 2.11, 2.15.
Okay, you went fast.
Sorry.
2.01, let's go in order. 2.01, 2.07,
2.10,
okay?
2.11, 2.15.
Yeah, I got 207. So you have 5 altogether? 201, 201 is related to 207. We're just pulling it to alert everyone to the edit. Okay, we're gonna start with,
I have some others.
yes, sir.
2.06, 2.08, 2.15.
have, 8 items pulled so far, with the exception of, ready? With the exception of 201, 207, 210, 211, 215, 206, 208, and 214. The chair would like to entertain a consent motion. Mr. McKenzie, second.
Second.
Mr. Shapiro. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstains? So the consent agenda items have been passed. We will vote together on 201 and 207 as they are interrelated. We need a motion on the floor.
Move.
Mr. Shapiro, second. Mr. McKenzie. And that's on 201 and 207. Okay, on 201, I'd like to alert everyone that we have an edit, so I'm passing this edit to everybody. Did you get it? You got it? Yeah, the edit was just a deletion of a line item that's related to 207 that has been discussed as a board. Everybody is aware of the 207 poll, so one line item had to be. Everybody's clear on that? Any questions? So, on 207, I guess you're making a motion to table? Okay, can you make the motion?
I mean, should we not vote on 201 first?
201 is ready as
Right,
now
so should we not vote on
modified.
that? And then table 207?
We can. Okay, so 201, so the motion is only on 201 now, not including 207.
Right.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Any abstains? Okay, the professional personnel report, 201, has been passed with the modification discussed today. We'll go to 207. Mr. Kern, would you like to make?
Yes, I will make a motion to table 2.07.
Okay. So, without other motions on the floor, it's a motion to table number 207 for a later time. Mr. Kern, second. Mr. McKenzie. All those in favor of tabling item 207 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against? Any abstains? So 7 to tabling item 207. Going back in order, 206, Mr. Shapiro had pulled that item.
Yeah, so I make a,
We're gonna put the motion on the floor first, and then any discussion. Number 1, motion.
moved.
Mr. Shapiro, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Donnelly. Discussion.
The idea, and I think we should have a billboard that talks about us, Suffolk Central, to show it there. The billboard that we're thinking about, I had originally thought that it was farther up that road, closer to Route 17, and I see it's when you come out of here and you make a right on 59 or whatever it is. And you go about 200 or 300 feet and then you see it, okay? And I know that, Don, I think you had said that there were 600 or 60,000 cars that go by.
67,000 cars go by there every month.
Can you turn your mic, Mr. Karen?
I'm a teacher, come on, you can hear me.
just for the sake of the video clarity, thank you. So keep going, yeah, discussion.
Yeah, so there are 67,000, it's not 67,000 different cars. It's probably 20,000, 25,000, maybe.
What
There's
was the
nothing-
number,
there's
60,000 and how much
60
time?
67,000.
A month, okay.
All right, but it's probably the same cars, and I have a feeling it's people who maybe already live here. I would like to kind of throw it out there so that people who are outside of this district who are thinking, you know, Suffern, I've heard about it, you know, I heard it's great things, and then they can catch it. I'm still in favor of having it. It's like, can we pick it up and put it somewhere, which I know we can't. So that's all. That's my only concern.
Okay.
And I just wanted to.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Karas to clarify.
My dear friend, okay, I like the idea because it's different. We're thinking outside of the box. I've had to place advertisements in the Journal News, and for one day, it's about this size, and it's about $900 for one day for an event, okay? What we're talking about here is $950 to have Clear Channel put it up, working with us, whatever we want to put up there, and it's going to be for the month of June. Okay, what an opportunity to showcase all the good things that we're doing in the district. And in terms of where it's located, number one, it's the only billboard in the whole area of Suffern that is available in the month of June. Okay, and the reason for June is because of all those different events. You can highlight what, the Suffern Central School District welcomes you, and put up there some pictures of different things that are going on, whether it be sports, the drama, the science club, environment, you name it, you can put it up there for one whole month. Plus, okay, because we will do it, in July it's going to be used again. However, we've made a deal where we can actually have it for 5.5 weeks for $950 total. Okay, and they'll put it up, transportation, the whole 9 yards. Where it faces, Mr. Shapiro, when you come out of here and you look just to the left, that means that a lot of cars are coming from Tuxedo. Do you remember Tuxedo? They have a school system that is slowly, the enrollment is going down and so forth. What an opportunity for people coming back and forth. During the whole summer months, over 200,000 cars will be going back and forth over that road. So I think it's an excellent idea. I can't see why you wouldn't want to advertise. If we're having somewhat of a declining enrollment, and all of a sudden you see this thing about Suffern Central and how great it is, okay? It's not where you send the material to each person in the community and say, we're doing this, we're doing that, but it'll catch your eye. And as far as, if I remember in terms of marketing, okay, when I was at RCC, we put on the side of the buses all the students with their sweatshirts going to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and so forth. And they were on there for, almost a year, I think, okay? And, I was like, well, how come you don't change it? And the idea was, you know what? People have to see it sometimes over and over again to make it register, okay? And we have that perfect opportunity.
I have a question,
Yes, sure.
Mr. Karas. So what Mr. Shapiro is saying, that it's a great idea,
Yeah.
if I hear him correctly. How about location? Have we looked
We-
at other
yes,
locations?
I-
Will they be more expensive? I think I heard you
Yes.
say many are not available.
Right. There's none available, okay, in the Rockland area. It also means wherever you put it, just like anything else. But there's two together if you go out there, okay, and then there's one to the right. Okay, if you remember, the Ramapo Lenape Indian tribe had a program up there. I just think it's something different, and that's what we need in the district, to think outside the box. We're sending materials to the people in the community. Well, here's something that people passing by and so forth. Wow, Suffern, okay? And if it works, okay, we can do it again in terms of maybe September, October. Welcome, okay? But the month of June, with what's going on in graduation and the students, we had the top 10% coming to the Suffern Middle School and where they're going. We could put up there the amount of scholarships, okay? The robotics team, for example.
There are some ideas already that have been.
Exactly. So, as you see, I'm absolutely in favor of,
Thank you, Mr.
try
Parents,
it.
for your work on this. And other board member questions or thoughts?
I would just like to say that
Can you
I
put your mic on?
appreciate your,
Thank you.
I'd like to just say that I appreciate your position, Mr. Cairns, but I think the girls today marketed suffering very well. Just what they did today with their program. I'm just not in favor of spending $900 or whatever. Tuxedo knows where suffering is. If they want to come, they'll be knocking on our door. I just don't see a purpose of advertising suffering on it. Thank you.
With the declining enrollment, and you guys did a great job, but, it's only in here that we're hearing it, okay? Whereas that out on the road, it's something different.
Thanks, Mr.
You saw the 3 billboards, okay? Try it.
Mr. Kern or Ms. Weaver, Mr. McKenzie, any thoughts?
I just want to say for $950, even if we get one student from that, with the enrollment rates that we have and the tuition rates that we're charging, say they come to kindergarten or first grade and we get an extra $7,000 for something that cost us $950 that we would have had before, I think it's well worth it.
Anyone else? So I would love to look into what Mr. Shapiro said, other more visible locations moving forward. This one is more affordable and available now, and thank you so much for doing all the legwork on this. But I'm just expressing this for the future. Perhaps this is a test drive, and even if it costs a little bit more, our board at that point can decide whether it was beneficial, especially if there's a way to evaluate if it was helpful. If we are asking new incoming students, where did you hear about suffering? That's always a good way to.
It gives everybody a sense of pride. Wow, what a school. And
A different location is something to look into, even if it comes at a higher cost in the future. I'm just throwing it out there because
in
I
the
agree
future.
that.
But this is the one that we
Yep.
have the opportunity to use for next month.
So
This is
Dr.
your
Castaldo,
graduation.
being that there was feedback given at the last meeting, last week, I know Mr. Shapiro was not at that meeting, based on direction from the board, started looking at some artwork possibilities with BOCE, so I'm gonna give her the floor.
So what you have in front of you are 3 different possibilities that BOCES worked up for us, their graphic design section, and it's under our contract that we have with them. So if you look at the 3 different ones, 2 of them have a middle school picture on it, the other one is 2 elementary school students. They put on there our logo and our vision, which is educating for personal excellence. I do like this one. It depends which of the 3 you like best. We make sure that we had permission to use the students' pictures that are on the one that you choose, or we could come up with a totally different idea. I know Mr. Cairns, you mentioned a lot about many different pictures. They did try something like that for us that did not work as well graphically. They felt it would be better to go with one picture with maybe several students in it than try to put many different views on it. And also the 2 that have more of a background to them rather than the one that has just the 3 students on a white background. They felt that wasn't as visually pleasing, that the 2 other ones with the background where you see classrooms in the background are much better. So those are just some ideas. If you guys have different ideas, we can switch them
Can you
around.
just repeat what you just said about the different views? Did you say something about having multiple?
Right, if we go to put multiple views, a lot of different little pictures, it doesn't work as well graphically. They felt it was better, and they're the experts on graphic design, to give us a picture that had many students in it, or at least a few students in it, and a background of a classroom or something else that had color to it, rather than trying to put a bunch of different pictures up there. Then they couldn't fit on the wording as well,
Okay.
any type of wording as well.
How big is the billboard? Right, but what are the dimensions then?
The dimensions are on the.
Do we have that?
They're online, I can.
We have the dimensions.
Look, I'll be honest. For 5.5 weeks,
Yeah, correct.
about $25 a day.
Paying for a month and you're getting 5.5
It's about
weeks.
$25 a day.
22. 10.5 by 22.8 feet.
Say again?
10.5 by 22.8.
guess I'm not completely opposed to spending the money and giving it a shot, just to try it out and see how it goes. However, this is not what I had in mind.
Neither.
I guess I've been visualizing something that's actually going to provide some type of information. I mean, some kind of statistics, some type of, something where somebody's gonna look and say, anybody driving down that road knows Suffern's here, and they know we're a great district. So I don't think these graphics really provide any information beyond what passerbys are already gonna know. So if we're gonna consider this, I think we should have actual information up there. The billboard's big enough where you could put data, you could put something there where people drive by and say, okay, look at their graduation ratio, look at the number of, I don't know, college acceptance, students that take AP exams, whatever it is. I mean, I would, personally, I wouldn't spend the money for this. If we could provide detailed information, I think that'd be a different story.
So future samples will go out by email to all board members for that kind of feedback. I agree with Matt that, Mr. Kern, that I envisioned something very different from what we're looking at. So I guess we weren't clear enough in our instructions that maybe like you said, some really catchy statistic that we're very proud of would be a great thing to add to this. And possibly not multiple pictures as much as maybe segment the board into maybe 2 sections that say 2 messages. But again, like we had these ideas in our heads, I feel, and we didn't really verbalize them. So in all fairness, I think based on giving the okay for the action, the design part, we should be engaged in it through communicating directly with Dr. Castaldo, whatever.
Well, we're just voting on the concept.
We're voting on the concept
graphics.
because if it's going to go up in June, we need to vote on it and very quickly get different ideas of design.
Right, so the turnaround is really quick, so what I would do is start emailing BOCES tonight with some different ideas and see what they come up with, and I'll email them all out.
You're still, what, number 26 in the state in terms of schools?
Some strong message as
What is
that.
the deadline to have artwork completed?
Tomorrow. So
Okay.
we'll work on this very quickly.
All right, so let's be realistic. I mean,
Perhaps,
This did not take all that long to put together.
right,
If
but
I
it's
have
gonna
a
take
clear
somebody some
direction.
time to pull data and, well, yes.
Right, but some of the data that you wanna use is rather reachable. We can get to that pretty easy, some of that data. So I'll get data such as that, we'll start putting that idea together. Then, once the concept is there, if we wanna pull off this piece of data and put on a different piece, that's an easier.
You could even use the same
Part.
picture you have and just use like a
Add
third
to
of the
it.
screen.
yeah.
Right.
A third of the screen, like dark blue, and put each thing.
So, just clarifying that we did discuss legally making sure that any students' pictures that go up there are gonna require a
Right.
specific release beyond the regular release that we have.
Absolutely.
So,
Always
just to
done.
clarify that. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against?
Aye,
Nay?
nay.
Mr. Donnelly? Any abstains?
Abstain.
Zero?
Yeah, I have to abstain, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable voting on it without seeing the artwork, and if it's gotta be done tomorrow, then I just can't.
And you understand that voting on it is not a
Well-
commitment to get engaged in it?
Well,
Yeah.
if we vote on it and it passes, I'm assuming if artwork gets done, we're gonna do it.
It doesn't have to. Like,
But again,
if the
I'm
work
not-
cannot be pulled off in time,
Well,
like that contract is
I'm-
not getting sent
no,
unless it's.
I'm abstaining, I'm not comfortable without, sight unseen.
Just clarifying that I will not sign the contract
Understood,
until it's completed.
understood.
That's my instruction from the board, and so.
I
so
will
the
send out the
The
ideas. to
graphics are
everyone.
reviewed by everyone, right?
Right, once BOCES has them.
Okay, great. Moving on to the next pulled item is 2.08. Mr. Shapiro pulled that item. It's agreement White Plains City School School District Health Services. Motion on the floor. Anyone?
Yeah.
Mr. Kern, second.
Second.
Mr. Shapiro, discussion.
Yeah, just have a question. I see that the acting superintendent of our school district has to sign it, but why not the superintendent of the city of White Plains? Why are they not required to sign it as well? I see that the president of the Board of Education there signs it, but not the superintendent. I'm just thinking that if they're requiring one from one district to sign, why not the other?
Where are you looking? Yeah, Ms. Campbell, go ahead.
It will be sent to sign, to the other school district for the superintendent to sign.
Oh, but I just didn't see it on that form.
Once we sign it, it will be sent out by the business office
Okay.
for that superintendent to sign. I will get a signed copy and then I'll.
Yes, we've passed a bunch of those. I've been trained well by
Okay.
Ms. Campbell. The paperwork comes back to me for a second signature after it's processed by them. It's a pretty complicated thing, so we sign them twice,
Okay.
one before and one after, and it's based on the district of residence, so
Right.
who signs first?
Okay, and then just a second piece, it's for the entire year, and it's May. I'm just kind of concerned, September to May, I don't know what happened.
There may not have been a need because it depends on who the student is and when they were enrolled.
So according to this, it says 3 students, so it's possible that they didn't start attending schools there until part of the way through the year.
Okay,
And it is,
It's
at
student
times, it
specific.
does take a little while to get the contracts from them after someone moves into that
okay,
school that's in there, that
Alright.
location, district of location.
all right, thank you.
Any further questions on 2.08?
No?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against? Any abstains? 7 votes. 208 is passed. Next item pulled is 2.10. 2.10 was pulled by Mr. Kern. Motion?
Motion.
Mr. Donnelly, second.
Second.
Discussion.
Just to reiterate my position, I mean, I know we interviewed 2 firms, they were both very good. My position is, and has always been, that we do not need the forensic audit, and I just wanted to make that clear before we vote, and I just wanted to make clear to the firm that is gonna be hired, that I think that they'll do a great job, they seem very qualified, but my position is simply that I'm not in favor of it.
Any further comments?
Yes, I'd like to comment too. I do agree with Mr. Kern. It's money that I don't see that needs to be spent at this time. We just had the state in here, and again, my position stated before is that we've had internal, external auditors, et cetera. I'm also a little concerned about the cost factor. I'm really not prepared to spend the kind of money that was generated. I know there was discussion that we could possibly negotiate, but we don't have a firm number. And with that, I'm just not gonna support this.
Any further comments or discussion? Okay, and just to clarify, the work done by this firm does not duplicate work done by our internal and external auditors. We verified that today. It was made very clear by the professionals that what we assumed was correct, that it will not duplicate any of the work that the controller's audit is doing or our internal and external auditors. Also, the extent to which the amount of work that will be delegated is controlled by the board as a whole and can be limited to items 1, 2, and 3, or expanded into 4, 5, and 6, like most of the board felt like some of the ideas that they mentioned were actually really appealing as something we may want to look into the future, and maybe even utilize their expertise to do even more than what was intended. So if there are no further discussions, we will call the question. question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Nay, Mr. Kern and Mr. Donnelly. Any abstains?
Abstain.
Mr. Shapiro. Item has passed. Item 2.11. Mr. Kern pulled 2.11. Motion? Mr. Kern, Mr. Donnelly, second. Discussion.
I just wanted the background on this firm, and I was kind of hoping Ms. Isolde was gonna be here, but she's not, so I'm not sure.
I think you do background.
Okay, so CPL, I mean,
It's the current firm.
it is, that's what I wanted to, okay, because it doesn't say that anywhere, Clark Patterson Lee, but when I looked them up, I didn't see that
Yeah,
in
the
any of the
logo's
documentation. It's just the logo, and I wanted to confirm it's the same firm that we currently, okay, that's really all I needed to know.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those against? Any abstains? Item has been moved. Item 2.14, pulled by Mr. Shapiro. Motion? I'm sorry, Kern, thank you. Mr. Kern, second. Mr. Donnelly, discussion.
Right, I mean, is this the one that we've been bantering back and forth?
Yeah,
Back and forth,
yeah, we
back and
received.
forth,
So
and,
Yes, I think we finally got it.
okay, so this is the one we got this.
So I want everybody to
Yeah.
take a look
So-
on the package that was left by
Right.
Ms. Campbell. Have your seat, because we're gonna be talking a lot of policies today. The first one you're gonna see is number 1120, if you need to take a quick look.
So I'll
The edits are what's in red, so you don't have to reread the whole policy.
I mean,
Just look at the red part.
I'll explain briefly, because we had, and I was gonna get into this later, but we had a policy committee meeting about a week and a half ago, and this was one of the policies we reviewed, and again, you know, Mr. Shapiro, you're right, this is one that we've gone back and forth on. But we did settle on, with the advice of our attorney, and I don't have my policies in order, so I apologize, of making the appeals officer, the FOIL appeals officer, will be the assistant superintendent for human resources.
Okay.
They will be the designated appeals officer.
Right.
In the event that
Right.
a request, in the request that an appeal has to do with them, then it would be the assistant superintendent for instruction. Is that?
That's exactly what the red
Right,
says right
right.
there.
Well, it's, okay,
He loves red.
I can't.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm
He's colorblind.
No, yeah, so
So
you're
Mr.
gonna
Karen's
have
will help
to, you're
with
gonna
the
have to
colors.
actually take one copy, and if it's in,
Circle it.
do it, no, just get a yellow marker and make it like this, because I can't see it. I'm sorry,
It's
I
really
apologize to
the last
everybody, I'm
part.
colorblind, that's the way it goes.
I'm so sorry, I forgot that.
All policies will now be in red.
So,
No,
our-
no.
yeah, we will be discussing additional policies, but this is the only one that's today as an action item. Our
Right.
policy says that at the
Okay.
second reading, we act on the policy, but this has come back and forth because we wanted to perfect it or be all on board. It's the fourth reading already. It was tabled at a fourth reading previously. Today, it's an action item at fourth reading. The policy committee met last Monday on the 13th of May, and this was finalized with the attorney's assistance and feedback. He didn't like either one of our positions. He did not feel that the FOIL appeal should go to either parties that we were debating. So now this is a third solution that hopefully everybody's on board with. And these appointments would be made at the reorg every year, so that if there's any vacancy in a position, let's say, assuming that happened in the past, as it did, there would be another administrator selected by the current board at its reorg meeting. So it offers a little flexibility too for future boards. If everyone's ready to vote on 1120, we will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstains? So 7 ayes. Finally, 1120 is adopted. The update will be posted to board document as soon as we can get to it. 2.15 is the revised calendar. This is the district calendar that is being proposed to the board this evening as a revision. The main changes are to the breaks, and we will put the motion on the floor and then have a discussion. So 2.15 was pulled by Mr. Kern. Motion? Mr. Kern, second? Second, Mr. McKenzie. Discussion. Mr. Kern will start.
I want to understand what happened. Why did we put out a calendar that was approved? And now we're changing it drastically enough where a lot of community members have come up to me, and I know a lot of other board members pretty upset. So I'd kind of like to know what happened.
Okay. Does anyone have a copy for Dr. Costello?
That's okay, I can
I'll pull it up
talk
on
through,
my-
I can talk through it pretty much. So the original calendar as it was presented was, left to me to bring to the board. It was the one that was looked at within this building, within central administration, as the one that would be the best for us. About 2 weeks ago, we received the BOCES composite calendar that gives us all of the school districts in Rockland County as well as the calendar that BOCES is following. BOCES is always open, their programs are open when more than 4 school districts are open, they're closed otherwise. So the composite calendar that came indicated that every district, with the exception of us, was off a different week in April. Everyone else was off the week after what is Easter next year. We were off the week before. Additionally, one of the reasons everyone else was off the week after Easter is, I'm trying to think of the holiday that sits there. It's not Rosh Hashanah. Passover, thank you very much. I could not come up with that. Passover begins on the 9th and ends on the 16th. It actually begins on sundown on the 8th of next year, so we wanted to have the 9th off. And the 9th, 10th, 15th, and 16th were the most important days to be off. So we weren't actually off on the days that would have encompassed that. We were off 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yes, but then only through 13. We would have been in school 14, 15, 16, 17. The problem with us also having different days off than the rest of the county is anyone who's in a different program, any of the out-of-district students, or anyone in BOCES, including like CTEC and all of that, would not have school to attend because those programs were going to be closed the week that we moved it to. So,
It makes complete sense why we're approving this calendar tonight.
right.
I mean, would it have been prudent to wait for the BOCES calendar to come out before?
Well, the BOCES
bring it to
calendar, I
us?
guess, had been sent to other people and we just didn't get it. There was kind of a cross communication with the email.
Do
with
you,
what
I'm
occurred.
just curious, do you, I mean, I know we try to be in line with the rest of the county and with BOCES, but when you review the calendar as administration, do you sit with the SEA? Do you review with them at all as far as the teachers go?
Yes,
That
this one was completely run past the SEA.
Okay, what was the first one?
The first one, it was indicated to me that they had seen it,
Okay.
but then I was told they hadn't
Okay,
seen
but
it.
you hadn't spoken to anybody?
I had not spoken to the SEA about it, but I most definitely did
Okay.
about this one.
Okay.
So this one was spoken to, the SEA leadership and I met and discussed the calendar before this change was made.
Okay.
And in order to fix the April, that meant we had to buy some days off of February. That gave us an extra day, which is why there's the extra day in May. Just to
Okay.
kind of explain where all the days came from, because then they all had to add up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board members would like to ask questions about the calendar or make any
No, I'd
comments?
just like to make a comment, though. We as a board adopted this
discussion? I have some clarification, but I'm way struggling to speak. Go.
This is completely out of the box, or maybe not. There were 3 snow days built in, and I know it says in this calendar that if we don't use them, they are placed
April 8th.
to increase the Memorial Day weekend, as well as to add to the April break. Okay. And I know that we were in favor of having the schools closed during the 3rd Tuesday in May. And we were doing that for security reasons, I'm assuming. We didn't want people walking into buildings where they were children. And I know that today was better because everyone was filtered in through gyms and towards back of the buildings, and so that worked. There were still children in the building. So, like I said, it's out of the box. It's just a thought. Any chance that we could make May 19th as the one snow day, if we only had one, that we would just put it there, making sure that the schools are closed on election day, and therefore no children anywhere in the buildings. And the buildings, our buildings can be used as polling places, and we can make it easier for the public to go in and go out without any children. Just a thought.
And obviously a decision cannot be made right now, but that's a good thing to consider, a
Just
modification.
maybe in the future.
Right, a modification.
Whatever.
And just, I want to clarify for my colleagues, just to remind you, because I went back and researched this a lot. Did we drop the ball? Did we not drop the ball? First of all, if you recall, March 5th, we had a discussion item first before the action item. I went back and verified that. And that calendar was posted attached to the March 5th agenda. The administration comes to the board usually with a proposed agenda after, just to answer your point, Mr. Curran, after checking the BOCES calendar and neighboring districts, because we have some staff that live in these districts and vice versa, some people who live in Suffern who work in these districts. So usually there's some sort of consensus. There may be 1 or 2 districts that don't match everyone else, or there may be a reason Suffern wants to stick with certain dates. But at the time, March 5th, the assumption when the item is put for discussion in front of the board is that that has taken place. Also, the other assumption is
Exactly,
that.
the assumption is that
Yeah, and the
we're
exactly.
presented with something that's
March
been
5th.
vetted.
Yeah, March 5th.
Right,
So
but it
already a
doesn't seem
full
like it
month
was.
later, by the time we acted on it, we had not received any complaints. That's the irony. We had not received any complaints about it until it was acted on, the first meeting in April, and then we also got complaints about that afterwards. So that was the irony. You've seen a couple of responses that I've sent to members of the community who complain about the discrepancy with other districts and the BOCES calendar. So we got those after the action, but not after the discussion, or we would have asked the administration at the time to make modifications. No complaints until we passed it. Now we try to go back and look, yes, after the fact, of some people unfortunately making vacation plans, and our apology for that. But the assumption was that when we discussed it March 5th, that work had taken place. Ready? Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against?
Nay.
Any abstains? So 6 ayes, 1 nay, 0 abstains. That concludes our action items, and next is our information item.
Before we continue, I'm not saying this because it impacts me, but the polls just closed, and we need to make sure that we have the proper people in place to receive
Yeah.
votes, so.
The people receiving votes are not involved in what we're doing.
No, they're not, but I don't know if Dr. Castaldo needs to be somewhere, I don't know. There should always be a board member in the room, okay? There's always a board member in the room in Hilburn when the votes come in from the schools. So
information item, we're gonna go through this pretty quickly. Information item, New York State Regional Economic Development Council's Mid-Hudson Consolidation Funding Application. Dr. Costello, would you like me to start, or would you like us to? Okay, so, we learned about this program through, Assemblywoman Ellen Jaffe's office. And in response to, board members expressing, and mostly through the advocacy committee, expressing interest in possible resources of funding for the Hilburn building, especially given its designation as a National Historical Site. Assembly Member Jaffe was one of our guest legislators this year in the advocacy committee, and has also been a guest every year since the advocacy committee started, and has shown interest in possibly securing some funding through certain grants to support renovations needed for the Hilburn building in order to maintain the building as the important historical site that it is. In addition to that funding, our office also shared information through these grants that are available through the New York State Governor's Office. I put out the information for possible administration to look into. Dr. Costello actually attended one or two of these events.
One, because the other one was the day of the.
The day of the Thurgood Marshall, ironically, celebration to dedicate the highway. So, a lot of information to take in. I happened to go on my own time. I believe Ms. Reamer attended one, and Mr. McKenzie attended one, just to gather information. There's an application process. None of us are qualified to do it. It requires somebody who's an expert in grant applications. We were informed by the people giving the workshops that the building or the request would qualify under heritage, a heritage area program, which falls under Parks and Recreation. So it would be great if we can apply to these grants, and what we were told by Assemblywoman Jaffe's office is that even if denied the first time, what they do when they confirm that in the meeting, they actually sit with the administration and work on how to get them accepted the second time. We're told there's roof work that's needed for this building, as well as some foundation work. If we can secure certain grants to support, because buildings that do not house students are not qualified for state aid. That's normally for schools that house students. But if it saves the taxpayer dollars, and still we can maintain the building and keep it for the great valuable site that it is, by all means, I'm all for that. This is a huge piece of our history, and not just the Hilburn history or just New York State. We just saw how important it is. It's a national site that is worthy of keeping and maintaining. So my 2 cents are, we keep looking into these grants and try to find funding. They're also thinking there must be other resources as well in addition to those 2. I know Senator Carlucci was there, and said he would look for ways to support as well.
Just remember, most of the problems with this building are dealing with the roof. And as you know, I am a proponent of solar panels on roofs. Basically, the companies will come in, they'll give you a complimentary roof at that point and put the solar panels on, taking the profit on an 18 or 25-year basis later on in that. So please remember, I have no relatives, friends, anybody in the solar panel business. The idea was to save money, okay, so that you don't have to pay for a new roof now or bond it. There are ways of doing it, and as I said, most of the problems of this building deal with the roof.
Any further comments or questions regarding this? So it's up to the administration at this point to look at these resources and to investigate the feasibility of an application or a grant to be applied for. But we certainly were told that this is a perfect example of where these grants would come into play. So it's the question of how many grant applications they receive and how much money they have to give. But there's a lot of money to be had. So that's only sharing preliminary information because obviously that has not moved forward, and the deadline is like early July, so we wanted to just put that out there for the public to be aware. Any questions? Okay, moving on from that to discussion items, we're gonna look at our policy list. There's a policy package, you took 1120 off, the rest are all first reading. Matt, would you like to explain NISBA recommended changes and
Yeah.
otherwise?
I'm happy to go through it, but again, it's really inappropriate for us not to have the proper people watching the numbers come in. So I don't know where Mr. Romanowski is right now, and I don't know who's with him,
Can,
but
Mr. Gisano, would you like to let us know who's
I
taking
mean,
care of this?
this is really not appropriate. There should be at least a board member in there. So
Okay.
unless we're going to stop and
We're,
let somebody go,
we're gonna take a
or-
recess, but I just wanna get through the discussion item and be done. So let's not waste any further time. Discussion items are all first reading. We are not taking actions on them right now.
well, does anybody have any questions about
That's beautiful.
the policies that are up? I mean, the majority of them are not substantial changes. For example, expense reimbursement is a minor change, use of district card is a minor change. The 5605 is a voter registration for students. That is a new required policy that we're adding, so that's something brand new. As is 5153, which is education of students in foster care. That is a new policy as well.
Any questions regarding the first reading can still be addressed from now until the actions, they're probably going to be scheduled for a second reading and action on June 4th. So all questions are welcome via email until such time. I know it's a lot to read, some of these are brand new. A lot of them were NISBA recommendations or a new law that just, what has been passed. So if you have questions, please address them before June 4th, so we could get legal input. Mr. Romanowski is where he needs to be, and the other item that you had requested, Mr. Curran, that we
Yes.
discussed, is regarding the NISBA goal setting. I have more information on that. NISBA, that we discussed it publicly, yes.
I thought we were talking about the calendar.
No, not yet. I'm skipping to the next one.
Okay.
I got the information from Jamie McPherson from NISBA. The cost is $800 for a workshop. We have the option of doing a public workshop or do it as a retreat design, and you said you wanted
Right,
discussion
right.
which one. In terms of the topic, it can be tailored to meet the needs of our board. It is a session that we sit around and discuss how to set goals for the upcoming school year, as this is a requirement of the Board of Education is supposed to take care of this annually. And they'll have recommendations on how to obtain stakeholder input, as well as possibly a questionnaire, as we were discussing. If the board would like to proceed with the goal-setting workshop facilitated by NISBA, it can generally be a 4-hour retreat for $1,800. But if we just invite him to the meeting and do it as a workshop as part of a meeting, it would be $800. So we're not voting, but we need to
And
start.
that's something I support having it done in a meeting in public, so that anybody that wants to come from the community can learn as well.
Yep, I agree, and I think we're
That-
gonna
that's-
involve the community in the goal
Yeah.
setting, so it makes a lot of sense to do it that way. Is everybody on board with that?
We all agree.
Okay, so we will schedule that for June 4th. I know we're gonna be missing one board member, I'm sorry about that, but we need to have this done in the spring before the new school year. So the calendar for the Board of Education was pulled off, thanks for the reminder, to coincide with a second resolution that has to be attached to it. I checked what we did last year too to confirm that we did it that way. It'll be done at the next meeting. The only reason we pulled it is if we're going to make it not the first, they moved it to July 10th at the first June meeting last year.
Right.
At that time, still the new board members or member will not have the ability to vote on the calendar. It has to be voted before they're sworn in.
No, and that's.
But in
of course,
courtedy
but at
to
least you
them,
get
we'll
at
have
least
the
you can work on a
feedback.
schedule.
So all it is that we're discussing is that instead of July 2nd, it seems for now that the consensus is that July 9th would work better. This this year it was July 10th and we had
This
done.
year it was, but I think the way the policy is written is
You need a separate resolution.
it's supposed to be the first Tuesday, and you only make it a subsequent Tuesday if there is a conflict. So it should be July 2nd,
So, yeah, so.
unless it can't be July
Yep,
2nd.
so we put it that way because I received information that there are conflicts, but I will get feedback from any new board members that join us. I'll need feedback from everyone, July 2nd or 9th, and wherever the majority of the board members could be present will be the date, but it will involve a second resolution to be in conjunction with the calendar. At this point, I need a motion to recess the meeting. We are only recessing temporarily. We have not had our public comments, which we're supposed to have, so if you feel like you have comments, please stick around. We will be recessing only to get preliminary numbers and vote information, election information. So, motion,
So moved.
Mr. Shapiro, second.
Second.
Mr. Kern, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are recessed temporarily. Thank you. And if the polls close at 9 o'clock, the machines take time to get. So we're perfect. We're 9:12.
We sat here, who knows how long.
Nope, we're 9:12. We'll be very. Yeah. Okay, no action is expected upon our return except for the adoption of the temporary results, so no actual action. If you have questions, come up and ask them.